When a Marine general asked her body count as a joke, expecting silence or shame, she gave him a number that froze every officer in the room. 73. What happened next exposed the most classified maritime operation in modern history and the warrior they'd tried to erase. The fluorescent lights hum overhead in a windowless room deep inside Naval Station Norfolk. The walls are painted the kind of gray that exists nowhere in nature. Industrial gray. Government gray. The color of judgment and bureaucracy and decisions that end careers. It's the kind of gray that seems to absorb light rather than reflect it, making the room feel smaller than it actually is. 3 cameras mounted in the corners record everything. Red lights blink in steady rhythm. 1 blink per second, like a heartbeat, like a countdown. The mechanical precision of those blinking lights is the only sign of life in an otherwise sterile space. At the center of the room sits a single metal table, government issue, bolted to the floor. The surface is scratched and dented from years of use, each mark a silent witness to countless other hearings. Other careers ended, other lives altered. Behind it alone sits Captain Reese Sullivan. Her uniform is spotless. Dress blues pressed so sharp the creases could cut paper. The fabric is dark as midnight, the gold buttons polished to mirror brightness. Her ribbons form 3 perfect rows across her chest. Navy Cross with 2 gold stars. Purple Heart. Combat Action Ribbon. Bronze Star with Valor Device. Each one tells a story she's never allowed to tell. Each one represents sacrifice that will never be acknowledged. Her posture is upright but not rigid. Shoulders back, spine straight, hands resting flat on the surface of the table, fingers spread evenly. She doesn't fidget, she doesn't shift, she doesn't look around. Years of training have taught her how to be perfectly still, even when every instinct screams to move. Her face is calm, unreadable, like someone who's learned to disappear while remaining completely visible. It's a skill acquired over 2 decades of service, the ability to be present without being seen, to observe without being observed. She's 42 years old, though the stress of the last year has added lines that make her look older. The crow's feet around her eyes weren't there 10 years ago. Neither was the small scar above her left eyebrow, barely visible unless you know to look for it. A souvenir from Kandahar 2012. A piece of shrapnel that should have killed her, but instead left only a mark. Her dark blonde hair is pulled back in a regulation bun, not a strand out of place. No makeup, no jewelry except the plain gold wedding band on her left hand. The metal has worn thin over the years, rubbed smooth by time and grief and the refusal to let go. She's been a widow for 18 years. The ring stayed on. Some promises don't end with death. Around her, arranged in a horseshoe formation that feels deliberately intimidating, 23 senior officers fill the tiered seating. Navy admirals in crisp whites that seem to glow under the fluorescent lighting. Marine colonels with rows of ribbons spanning their chests that would make a civilian dizzy trying to count them. JAG lawyers flipping through thick folders marked with red stamps that say, classified in capital letters. Some lean back in their chairs with arms crossed, the universal posture of judgment already rendered. Others whisper to each other, low voices carrying across the room like static interference on a bad radio connection. A few glance at Reese with expressions that range from boredom to thinly veiled contempt. She's seen that look before. The look that says, you don't belong here. The look that questions how someone like her could have achieved what her record claims. The room feels less like a hearing and more like an execution. The verdict already decided. The proceedings just formality. At the head of the room, elevated behind an imposing oak bench that looks like it was stolen from a federal courthouse, sits Lieutenant General Clayton Garrett. He's 61 years old, a Marine legend, the kind of officer whose name appears in textbooks and whose photograph hangs in the halls at Quantico. Gulf War veteran with 3 rows of ribbons and silver hair combed straight back in a style that hasn't changed since 1991. His face is all hard angles and sharp lines, jaw like granite, cheekbones that could have been carved with a chisel, eyes like steel ball bearings, cold and calculating and absolutely merciless. When he speaks, people listen. When he gives an order, people obey without question. When he walks into a room, everyone stands a little straighter. He radiates authority the way a furnace radiates heat. Constant, inescapable, overwhelming. Right now, that authority is focused entirely on the woman sitting alone below him. And there's something personal in his gaze, something that goes beyond professional scrutiny. This isn't just about her record. This is about something deeper. The charges against Reese are written on paper in front of him. The folder is thicker than it should be for what amounts to bureaucratic accusations. Conduct unbecoming an officer. failure to provide operational documentation, refusal to submit after-action reports, violation of chain of command protocols, insubordination. The words are bureaucratic, shapeless, designed to mean everything and nothing at once. The kind of charges that can be interpreted any way the panel wants. The kind that end careers without requiring proof of actual wrongdoing. The proceeding has been underway for 47 minutes. Reese has been asked exactly 19 questions. She's answered 18 of them with variations of yes, sir, no, sir, or I cannot discuss that, sir. Each answer delivered in the same flat, neutral tone. Her voice is steady every single time, controlled, like someone reading coordinates over a radio in the middle of a firefight. No emotion, no inflection, no indication that any of this affects her. Just information delivered with mechanical precision. State your name for the record. Captain Reese Sullivan, United States Marine Corps. Current assignment, 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force Forward Reconnaissance Company. How long have you served? 20 years, sir. And in those 20 years, Captain Sullivan, you've been deployed how many times? 15 combat deployments, sir. Garrett flips through her file without looking at her. The pages turn slowly, deliberately. Each motion a performance for the room, a demonstration of patience wearing thin. He's reading things he's already read a dozen times. This is theater. This is about making her wait, making her uncomfortable, breaking her silence through sheer pressure. He pauses on one page. His jaw tightens. The muscles in his neck flex. He's reading something that clearly irritates him, though everyone in this room knows he's seen it before. The performance continues. He closes the folder sharply. The sound echoes off the walls like a gavel strike, like a judge passing sentence. 15 deployments, he says. Not a question, a statement, an accusation wrapped in fact. And yet your record shows almost no mission reports attached to your service jacket. He looks up now, makes eye contact for the first time in 20 minutes. His gaze is hard, challenging, daring her to explain the inexplicable. How do you explain that Captain Reese doesn't hesitate, doesn't break eye contact? I don't, sir. Garrett's eyes narrow. A muscle twitches in his jaw. You don't? No, sir. The room shifts. The atmosphere changes like a pressure drop before a storm. Officers exchange glances. Someone coughs. Another shifts in their seat. The whispers stop. Everyone leans forward slightly, sensing blood in the water. The atmosphere thickens like humidity before a thunderstorm. The air conditioning struggles to keep up with the body heat of 23 officers watching one woman refuse to bend. Garrett stands now, slowly, every movement calculated for maximum effect, letting the weight of his rank fill the space, letting the silence build. He moves around the bench and down the steps, closing the distance between himself and the table where Reese sits. His footsteps echo in the quiet room, each one deliberate, measured, the sound of authority approaching judgment. You were deployed to the South China Sea in 2023, he says. His voice is deceptively calm. Care to elaborate? No, sir. Persian Gulf 2024. No, sir. He stops a few feet from her table, arms crossed. Towering over her like a statue of judgment carved from marble. At 6'2", he has 8 inches on her even when she's standing. Sitting, she has to look up to meet his eyes. Another calculated move. Another display of dominance. Do you think silence makes you mysterious, Captain, or just difficult? Reese doesn't react. Her expression doesn't change. Her hands remain flat on the table. She doesn't blink, doesn't flinch, doesn't give him anything to work with. In the back row, almost invisible among the sea of uniforms, sits a man who hasn't spoken once since the hearing began. Rear Admiral Russell Kane, 58 years old, salt and pepper hair cut military short, deep-set eyes like chips of flint, a Navy SEAL trident pinned above his ribbons, the gold medal catching the fluorescent light. He hasn't moved, hasn't shifted in his seat, hasn't taken notes or whispered to his neighbors, but he's watching, absorbing every word, every gesture, every nuance, reading the room the way a sniper reads wind, calculating angles and pressure points in the moment when everything will break. Garrett begins to pace, slow circles around Reese's table like a predator circling wounded prey. His voice rises with each word. You know what I think, Sullivan? I think you've been coasting, hiding behind classification stamps, using bureaucracy as a shield so no one can ask what you actually did during your deployments. He stops directly in front of her table, leans down so his face is level with hers, close enough that she can smell the coffee on his breath, close enough to be intimidating without being unprofessional. I've seen Marines like you before. All mystique, no substance. You get one lucky assignment, ride it for years, and hope no one digs too deep. His words are sharp, intentional, designed to cut, designed to provoke a reaction. Any reaction, anger, defense, justification, anything that would give him ammunition. Several officers nod in agreement. One writes something on a legal pad, the scratch of pen on paper loud in the tense silence. Another leans over and whispers to his neighbor, who smirks. The pylon is beginning. The panel is turning against her. Reese's jaw tightens. It's subtle, barely visible, but it's there. A flicker of tension that betrays the calm exterior. Her knuckles press harder against the table. The tendons in her hands stand out. Her breathing slows, becomes more controlled, deliberate, but she says nothing. She's been trained to withstand interrogation, been trained to maintain composure under pressure. This isn't her first time being accused of things she can't defend against. But training doesn't make it easier. It just makes it bearable. Garrett straightens, turns to address the panel now, his voice theatrical, confident, playing to his audience. You want to sit there in silence, fine. But this panel will make its recommendation based on what I see. He pauses, lets the moment build, lets the tension ratchet higher. And what I see is someone who doesn't belong in the Marine Corps. The words land like a verdict already decided, like a sentence already passed. The room feels smaller, hotter. The air conditioning can't keep up with the pressure building in this space. Reese's eyes remain fixed on a point just past Garrett's shoulder, staring at nothing, seeing everything. It's a technique she learned in survival training. Focus on a point. Control your breathing. Don't let them see you break. In the back row, Admiral Kane shifts in his seat for the first time. A small movement, subtle, but significant. He opens a thin folder in his lap, the kind of folder reserved for information too sensitive to circulate widely. Eyes-only material that doesn't exist in any official database. He reads something. His expression changes. It's subtle but clear if you know what to look for. His jaw tightens. His hand grips the armrest. The knuckles go white. He closes the folder slowly, deliberately, sets it on his lap with careful precision. His eyes lock onto Reese. He doesn't look away. There's something in his gaze now, recognition, understanding, and the beginning of anger directed not at her, but at this entire proceeding. Garrett calls for a recess. 15 minutes. The room empties in a wave of noise and movement. Officers stand stretched, gather in clusters outside. Their voices filter back through the open door. Whispers that aren't quite whispers. Judgments delivered in hushed tones that carry perfectly in the corridor. 3 years forward deployed and not a single after-action report. That's not classification, that's cover-up. Garrett's right, she's hiding something. Or maybe she just pissed off the wrong person and this is payback. Either way, her career's over. The whispers carry weight, each one another layer of judgment pressed down on Reese's shoulders, each one another nail in the coffin of her military career. Inside, she sits alone. The camera's still recording, the red light still blinking. 1 per second, like a heartbeat counting down to 0. A junior officer, some kid who looks about 19, with a fresh haircut and nervous eyes, brings her a cup of water and sets it on the table. Standard procedure during breaks. She doesn't drink it, doesn't even look at it, doesn't acknowledge his presence. Her hands remain flat on the table, but now they're gripping the edge. Her knuckles are white. The tendons in her forearms stand out like cables under tension. The only outward sign that this is affecting her, that the weight is becoming unbearable. She thinks about walking out, just standing up and leaving. They can't court-martial her for charges this vague, can't destroy her career over bureaucratic accusations. But she knows that's not true. They can, they will. Unless she gives them a reason not to. Admiral Kane walks past her table. His footsteps are deliberate, measured. The sharp click of dress shoes on tile. He doesn't stop, doesn't speak. But as he passes, he glances down at her hands. He sees the tension, the strain, the weight of 20 years compressed into white knuckles on a metal table. He sees what no one else in this room has bothered to look for. The patois, the burden. The price she's been paying in silence. He pauses for half a second, just long enough for the moment to register. Just long enough for her to know that someone understands. Then he keeps walking. Reese closes her eyes, takes a breath, holds it for 4 counts, releases for 4 counts, a technique she learned a long time ago. Tactical breathing, box breathing, the kind of thing that keeps you calm when everything is falling apart. When your hands are shaking and your heart is racing and you need to take the shot anyway. She opens her eyes. The room is empty, except for her and the blinking red lights of the cameras. Witnesses that will never testify to what they've recorded. Archives that will never be accessed. She thinks about her daughter, Madison, 16 years old, home in Virginia Beach right now, probably doing homework at the kitchen table. The same table where Reese used to sit and clean her rifle after deployments. The same table where Madison learned to read sounding out words while her mother field stripped an M4. Madison doesn't know her mother is sitting in a courtroom facing career-ending charges. Reese told her it was just another routine briefing, another day at work, just like she's told Madison 1,000 other lies. Small ones, necessary ones. Lies designed to protect a child from truths too heavy for young shoulders. Some truths are too heavy for 16-year-old shoulders. Some truths would break them. Reese thinks about her husband, James, Captain James Sullivan, killed in action, Fallujah, Iraq, November 2007, 18 years ago. She was 25. He was 28. They'd been married for 3 years. 3 years that weren't nearly enough. She still wears his ring. Still feels its weight on her finger like a promise that outlasted death. Madison was born 2 years after he died. IVF frozen embryos. The last piece of him she had left. The last decision they'd made together even though he wasn't there to see it through. Some decisions you make alone because there's no one left to make them with. Some promises you keep even after the person you made them to is gone. The door opens. Officers file back in. The noise settles into a low hum before falling silent. Everyone takes their seats. The performance resumes. Garrett returns to his bench. He looks energized now, refreshed, like a predator that's caught the scent of blood in the water and knows the kill is close. He leans forward, fingers steepled, a gesture that would look contemplative if not for the predatory gleam in his eyes. Let's talk about your last deployment, Captain Sullivan. You were attached to a Navy SEAL task unit as a liaison, is that correct? Yes, sir. And during that deployment, you claim to have participated in direct action operations. I don't claim anything, sir. Her voice is ice, controlled fury wrapped in military courtesy. But you were involved in combat engagements. The room leans in. Every eye is on her now. This is what they've been waiting for. The moment when she either confesses or digs her grave deeper. Yes, sir. Garrett's expression shifts, something that might be a smirk, might be satisfaction, the look of someone who's about to spring a trap. How many? Reese hesitates. First time all day. The pause stretches. 1 second, 2, 3. I don't have an exact number, sir. Ballpark. She doesn't answer. Can't answer. The information is classified at a level that doesn't officially exist. Saying anything is a violation. Saying nothing is insubordination. Either way, she loses. Garrett turns to the panel, his voice dripping with mockery, with theatrical disdain. Come on, Captain. You're a force reconnaissance operator. Surely you kept count. Still nothing, just silence. Just the sound of fluorescent lights humming overhead and the quiet scratch of a pen on paper as someone takes notes. He turns back to her, leans both hands on her table now, his face inches from hers, close enough that she can see the broken capillaries in his nose, close enough that she can smell the coffee on his breath and see the veins pulsing in his temples. This is the problem, he says, his voice low now. Dangerous. We have a Marine who claims to be a combat veteran but can't or won't provide details. No mission reports, no verification, just silence and classified stamps and bureaucratic excuses. He straightens, lets the moment build. The room is so quiet you can hear the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. So quiet you can hear heartbeats. Breathing, the rustle of fabric as officers shift in their seats. So let me ask you directly, Captain Sullivan. He pauses. The room holds its breath. Every person in this space knows what's coming. The trap is closing. Since you seem to think your record speaks for itself. Another pause. Longer this time. Deliberate. Calculated for maximum effect. What's your body count? The question lands like a detonation, like a grenade thrown into the center of the room. The room goes completely silent. Not the silence of anticipation, the silence of shock. The silence of something breaking. The silence that comes when a line has been crossed that can't be uncrossed. It's not a real question. It's a taunt, a trap designed to humiliate. If she answers, she's arrogant, a braggart, someone who keeps score of human lives like it's a game, like killing is something to be proud of. If she doesn't answer, she's a fraud, a liar, someone hiding behind classification to cover up mediocrity. Either way, she loses. That's the point. Several officers shift uncomfortably in their seats. A JAG lawyer closes her folder and sets down her pen, unable to watch what's happening. A Navy captain in the third row looks away, shame coloring his features. Even some of Garrett's supporters look uncomfortable. This has gone too far. Admiral Kane sits forward in his chair, his eyes locked on Reese, his jaw set. His hands gripping their armrests so hard the leather creaks. Every muscle in his body is tense. He looks like a man preparing to intervene, to stop this before it goes any further. Reese doesn't flinch, doesn't look away, doesn't give Garrett the satisfaction of seeing her break. She raises her head slowly, meets Garrett's eyes for the first time since the hearing began. Really meets them, not looking past, not looking through. Looking directly at him with eyes that have seen things he can't imagine. Her voice is calm, precise, clinical, like she's reciting grid coordinates, like she's reading a weather report, like she's delivering information that means nothing. 73. The word hangs in the air like smoke after a gunshot, like the echo of thunder after lightning, like something that once released can never be taken back. The courtroom freezes. Officers stop moving, stop whispering, stop breathing. The world narrows to this moment, this number, this revelation. Garrett blinks. His expression shifts from smug confidence to something closer to confusion. His mouth opens slightly, then closes. He wasn't expecting an answer. Certainly not that answer, not that number delivered with such cold precision. What? His voice cracks just slightly, just enough to notice, just enough to hear the confidence bleeding out. Reese doesn't repeat herself. She doesn't need to. The number is out there now, hanging in the air between them like an accusation. Her voice remains calm, steady, like she's reading a weather report, like 73 is just a number, just data. 73 confirmed kills, sir, all from a single classified joint operation. The room shifts. The atmosphere changes like a fundamental law of physics being rewritten. Several officers sit up straighter. A colonel in the third row leans forward, his pen frozen mid-stroke over his notepad. The JAG lawyer who closed her folder opens it again, staring at Reese with wide eyes. Garrett takes a step back. His hands fall from the table. His face is pale now, the color draining from his cheeks like water from a cracked glass, like blood from a wound. He opens his mouth again. No words come out, just silence. Just the sound of a man realizing he's made a terrible mistake. Reese fills the silence with 5 words that detonate the entire room. Codename Phantom Trident, whom the effect is immediate, catastrophic. Admiral Kane stands abruptly. His chair scrapes loudly against the floor. The sound like nails on a chalkboard, like metal tearing. His folder tumbles off his lap. Papers scatter across the ground like shrapnel, like debris from an explosion. His face has gone from calm to ashen in the span of a heartbeat, the color draining so fast it looks like he might collapse. Stop the recording. His voice cuts through the room like a blade, like a gunshot. Now! A junior officer scrambles toward the cameras, fumbles with switches, hands shaking. The red lights blink off one by one, plunging the room into a different kind of silence. This one is heavier, darker, more dangerous. The kind of silence that comes right before something breaks, right before everything changes. Kane moves down the aisle between the rows of officers, his boots heavy on the floor, each step deliberate, purposeful, the sound of authority that transcends rank. Clear the room, he says. Everyone out except command-level personnel. Garrett turns toward him, his face twisted with confusion and anger and the dawning realization that this situation has spiraled beyond his control. Admiral, I'm conducting a hearing here. I have every right to. Kane interrupts him mid-sentence, his voice low, controlled, but shaking with barely contained fury, with rage that's been building for the last hour. General Garrett, sit down and shut your mouth. The room erupts. Officers exchange shocked glances. Whispers spread like wildfire. 2 JAG lawyers stand quickly gathering their papers with trembling hands. A Marine captain hesitates near the door, sure whether to leave or stay. Kane points at the exit. Out. Now. The door opens and closes multiple times as officers file out in stunned silence. Some glance back at Reese as they leave. Their expressions a mixture of confusion and dawning realization, and something that might be respect. Within 2 minutes, the room is emptied. Only 8 people remain. Garrett still standing near the front, looking smaller now without his audience, without the weight of consensus backing his authority. Kane standing in the center aisle like a pillar of stone, like judgment personified. Reese still seated at the table, hands flat, breathing slow and controlled. 5 other flag officers, all with enough rank to know that what's about to happen is beyond their clearance level, but too important to ignore, too significant to walk away from. Kane walks to the center of the room. His voice drops to a tone that feels more dangerous than any shout, more threatening than any raised voice. Does anyone here, besides myself, have TS/SCI Charlie clearance? Silence. Not a single hand moves, not a single voice speaks. The question answers itself. Kane nods slowly. Then what I'm about to say stays in this room permanently. If I hear that anyone has disclosed anything said here, I will personally ensure they spend the rest of their career counting paperclips in a basement office in Alaska. He turns toward Reese. For the first time since the hearing began, his expression softens. Just slightly. Just enough to suggest respect, recognition, understanding. Captain Sullivan, he says, you're authorized to disclose Phantom Trident to this panel. Reese stands. The movement is crisp, precise. 20 years of muscle memory. 20 years of standing when ordered. Following protocols even when everything is falling apart. Yes, sir. She takes a breath. This is the story she's been legally forbidden to tell for 18 months. The story that's cost her sleep, cost her peace, cost her pieces of herself she'll never get back. The story that saved 4,000 lives. She begins. August 12, 2023. Spratly Island, South China Sea. Her voice is steady, but there's something underneath it now. Something that wasn't there before. Weight, gravity, the kind that comes from carrying secrets that could start wars. From knowing things that could get people killed. USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group was operating in international waters. Standard Freedom of Navigation Patrol. 3 carrier groups total in the region. Standard deterrence posture. She pauses, making sure everyone is following. Making sure they understand the stakes before she continues. Naval intelligence intercepted communications indicating a coordinated attack. Imminent threat. Timeline estimated at 36 hours maximum. Garrett's face is pale. His hands are shaking. He sits down heavily in his chair, the wooden seat creaking under his weight. Reese continues, her voice stronger now, more confident. This is her story, her truth, and she's going to tell it. The threat originated from a command vessel disguised as a commercial fishing trawler. Dead in the water, broadcasting distress signals on international maritime channels. Standard bait operation designed to draw in rescue vessels. She walks to the front of the room now, no longer seated, no longer the accused. Now she's the expert, the operator, the one with answers, the one who knows what really happened. Intelligence identified the vessel as a mobile command center, coordinating submarine movements in the region, surface-to-surface missile guidance systems, electronic warfare operations, targeting not one carrier group, all 3. A rear admiral seated near the back inhales sharply. 3 carrier groups, 12,000 sailors, maybe more. Reese doesn't acknowledge the reaction. She keeps talking, keeps laying out the facts. 4,000 American sailors at risk in the immediate strike. Maybe more if the attack succeeded and escalated to full engagement with Chinese naval forces in the region. We were looking at the potential start of World War III. She stops, lets that number sit. 4,000, the weight of it, the magnitude. We couldn't strike the vessel officially. That would be an act of war, international incident, diplomatic catastrophe. Couldn't wait for diplomatic channels. We had 36 hours, maybe less. Diplomacy takes weeks. Her voice hardens, becomes steel. So they sent ghosts. The room is completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear heartbeats. You could hear the sound of understanding dawning. Reese looks at Garrett now, makes direct eye contact, forces him to see her, really see her. DEVGRU requested a force reconnaissance specialist for maritime boarding operations, someone with close quarters combat experience, someone with cross-training in advanced tactical scenarios, someone expendable enough to send on a mission that officially didn't exist. She pauses, lets him absorb that. I had 18 years of experience at that point. Israeli Sayeret Matkal exchange program, British SBS joint operations, maritime interdiction certifications that don't officially exist in any database you have access to. Another pause, another moment to let the weight build. I was selected as primary breacher for the operation, codenamed Phantom Trident. Garrett stares at her, really seeing her for the first time. Not as a problem to be solved, not as a career to be ended, not as an insubordinate officer who won't follow protocols, but as something else entirely. A warrior, a weapon, someone who does things that keep other people safe, someone who carries burdens that most people can't imagine. Reese's voice is quiet now, but it fills the room, fills the space, commands attention in a way that shouting never could. What I'm about to tell you is classified at a level that doesn't officially exist. It will never be written down, never be filed in any database, never be acknowledged by anyone with authority to confirm or deny. She looks around the room, makes eye contact with each remaining officer, forces them to understand the weight of what they're about to hear. If anyone repeats what I'm about to say outside this room, people will die. Operations will be compromised. Alliances will fracture. International incidents will occur that could destabilize the entire Pacific Theater. Admiral Kane nods once, a gesture of support, of solidarity, of understanding. Reese takes a breath and begins to tell the story that will change everything they think they know about her. About warfare, about sacrifice, about what it costs to be a silent professional. The mission launched at 0230 hours. The mission launched at 0230 hours from USS Virginia, a Virginia-class fast-attack submarine operating under complete emissions control 200 miles southeast of the Spratly Islands. Radio silent, running deep, a ghost in the water. Reese's voice fills the courtroom, steady, precise. She's no longer the defendant sitting in judgment. She's the expert, the operator, the only person in this room who knows what really happened on August 12, 2023, the only survivor who can tell this story. Launch platform was a nuclear submarine because surface vessels would have been detected immediately. Chinese radar coverage in that region is comprehensive, overlapping, redundant. Any surface approach would have been flagged within minutes and tracked until we were in range for interception. She walks slowly as she speaks, not pacing, moving with purpose, like she's briefing a tactical operation instead of defending her career. Like she's back in the mission planning room instead of a courtroom. The team consisted of 12 operators from Naval Special Warfare Development Group, DEVGRU, what the media calls SEAL Team 6, though we never use that designation operationally. Too much attention, too much mythology. A colonel in the second row is writing furiously in his notepad, trying to keep up, trying to capture every detail for a report he'll never be allowed to file. I was the 13th member, attached as the primary breacher and close quarters specialist. My call sign for the operation was Reaper 7. Garrett's face is still pale. He's gripping the edge of his desk, knuckles white, breathing shallow, looking like a man who's realized too late that he's made a terrible mistake. Reese continues, clinical, professional, detached. Equipment loadout was specific to maritime boarding operations. Zodiac F-470 combat rubber raiding craft, inflatable, low radar profile. Painted matte black to minimize visual signature, even under moonlight or low-light conditions. She counts off on her fingers now, each detail precise, each specification exact. Personal weapons suppressed HK-416 carbines with 10-inch barrels, optimized for close quarters engagement. Subsonic ammunition to maintain suppressor effectiveness, SIG Sauer P-226 sidearms as backup. Also suppressed. Combat knives, breaching charges, flashbang grenades, zip cuff restraints for potential prisoners, night vision optics, AN/PV, 31 binocular systems with thermal imaging overlays, because the vessel had no external lighting, complete blackout conditions to avoid detection by satellite surveillance. She pauses, makes sure everyone is following, makes sure they understand the level of preparation, the attention to detail. Body armor was level 4 ceramic plates rated for rifle rounds, but minimal load-bearing equipment because we'd be climbing a wet hull in 12-foot swells. Every extra pound matters when you're scaling a moving target in open ocean. When your hands are wet and the hull is slick, and one mistake means you fall into dark water and drown before anyone can reach you. Admiral Kane nods slightly. He knows these details. He's the one who approved the equipment list. He's the one who sent them. Reese's voice doesn't change, doesn't waver. She's describing a mission the way a surgeon describes a procedure. Clinical, professional, detached from the emotional weight of what she's saying. Target vessel was a commercial fishing trawler, 280 feet long, registered out of Jakarta but flying no flag, dead in the water broadcasting automated distress signals on international maritime channels, playing the role of a vessel in trouble. Intelligence assessment indicated approximately 80 hostiles on board. Mix of military and paramilitary personnel, Chinese naval special operations, some Russian advisors. Electronic warfare specialists, communications technicians, all highly trained, all dedicated to their mission. All armed, all trained, all willing to die to complete their objective. The room is completely silent. Officers lean forward, absorbing every word, understanding dawning about what kind of operation this was. Our rules of engagement were explicit. Neutralize the command network. Destroy all communications equipment. Prevent the coordinated attack on the carrier groups. And leave no witnesses who could identify American involvement. She lets that last part hang in the air. No witnesses. The implication is clear. The submarine brought us to within 5 kilometers of the target. Launch point was chosen based on current patterns, sonar analysis, and satellite weather data. We needed to approach from a direction that wouldn't trigger their acoustic sensors or visual surveillance. Sea state was 4, 12-foot swells, wind 15 knots from the northeast, water temperature 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Not cold enough to kill you quickly, but cold enough to sap your strength if you stay in too long. Cold enough to matter. Reese closes her eyes for a moment, remembering, feeling the water again. The cold, the fear. We launched the Zodiac at 0230 hours exactly. 2 outboard motors, electric, nearly silent when running at low speed. Range of 30 kilometers on a full charge, but we only needed 5. Stealth over speed. The approach took 40 minutes. We navigated by GPS and night vision. No lights, no communications except hand signals. Radio silence maintained until we were ready to breach. Any transmission could be intercepted. Any signal could give away our position. She opens her eyes. Continues. The team leader was a master chief, 26 years in special operations, 300 confirmed combat missions across 4 different theaters. His call sign was Reaper 1, the most experienced operator I've ever worked with. He briefed us one final time in the Zodiac as we approached. His words were simple, direct, the kind of brevity that comes from decades of combat. Reese's voice dropped slightly, quoting from memory. The words burned into her brain. He said, "This vessel is a weapon aimed at 4,000 American sailors. We are the countermeasure. We go in silent. We go in fast. We complete the mission, and we get out before anyone knows we were there. No heroes, no mistakes. We do this right or we don't come home." Then he looked at me specifically. Said, "Reaper 7, you're first through every door. You clear the ping. We follow. If you hesitate, people die. If you miss a target, people die. If you make noise, people die. Understood?" I said, "Understood." Garrett is staring at her now, really seeing her. The way you see someone when you realize you've completely misjudged them. When you understand that the person in front of you has done things you can't imagine, seen things you don't want to see. Reese continues, the story pouring out now. 18 months of enforced silence breaking like a dam, like a flood that's been held back too long. We reached the vessel at 0310 hours, 40 minutes after launch, right on schedule. The trawler was dark, no deck lights, no cabin lights, just the faint glow of electronics through portholes. The glow of a command center that thought it was safe. We circled once, full perimeter assessment, looking for sentries, camera systems, motion sensors, infrared detection, anything that could compromise our approach or alert them to our presence. Spotted 2 sentries, one on the aft deck near the crane assembly, one forward near the bridge superstructure, both armed with AK pattern rifles, both smoking cigarettes despite being on watch. The glow gave away their positions like beacons in the dark. Her voice hardens, professional disdain for poor fieldcraft. First rule of fieldcraft, never smoke on sentry duty. It ruins your night vision and tells the enemy exactly where you are. Basic mistake, fatal mistake. Their mistake, our advantage. She describes the boarding sequence like she's watching it happen in real time, like she's back there in the dark water. We approached from the port side, used magnetic ascenders and grappling hooks. The hull was rusty, good texture for climbing, bad for stealth because every handhold could break loose and splash into the water. Every sound amplified in the quiet night. Reaper 1 went first, then Reaper 2, then me, Reaper 7, each of us timing our climb with the swell pattern, using the motion of the ocean to mask the sound of our movement. The climb took 3 minutes. Doesn't sound like long, but when you're hanging off a moving hull in 12-foot swells with 80 hostiles above you, 3 minutes feels like 3 hours. Every second expecting to hear a shout, a gunshot, an alarm. I reached the gunwale at 0313 hours exactly. Pulled myself over slowly. Low profile, weapon ready, scanning for targets, breathing controlled despite my heart hammering in my chest. The aft sentry was 15 meters away, back to me, still smoking, still ruining his night vision, still unaware that death was already aboard his vessel. Reese's voice goes quiet, flat, the emotion draining out like water from a sink. I took him with a suppressed headshot, single round, subsonic 9mm from my P226 sidearm, range 15 meters, center mass of the cranial vault. He dropped without a sound, cigarette still burning on the deck when he hit the ground. That was kill number 1. The words land heavy, real. Not a statistic in a report, not a number in a database. A human being who stopped existing because Reese pulled a trigger. She doesn't dwell on it, doesn't pause, keeps moving through the story. Reaper 2 neutralized the forward sentry simultaneously. Same method, suppressed headshot, no noise, no alarm raised, 2 sentries down in the same second. The rest of the team came over the gunnel in sequence. 12 operators plus me, 13 total, all aboard in 90 seconds. Moving with practiced efficiency. Each operator knowing their role, their position, their sector of responsibility. We stacked up on the main hatch, standard breach formation. I was point position, Reaper 1 behind me, the rest in tactical column, silent, professional, ready. Reese demonstrates with her hands, showing the formation even though no one in this room needs a visual aid. They all know what a breach stack looks like. But she's back there now, living it again. The hatch was unlocked. Poor operational security. They thought they were safe in international waters, thought the distress signal made them untouchable, thought no one would dare board them without international authorization. Wrong on all counts. I opened the hatch slowly, quarter inch at a time, checking for resistance, booby traps, pressure sensors, tripwires, nothing, just carelessness, just the kind of mistakes that get people killed. Interior was lit by red emergency lighting, minimal illumination, enough to navigate, but not enough to ruin night vision if you needed to go topside quickly. Standard shipboard lighting for night operations. We entered the companionway, narrow corridor, steel walls painted institutional gray, pipes running overhead, typical commercial vessel configuration. Tight quarters, no room for error. Her voice speeds up slightly, the pace of the operation increasing, the timeline compressing. First hostile contact came at 0316 hours, 3 minutes after boarding. A crewman emerged from a side compartment, unarmed, probably heading to the head or grabbing coffee. Wrong place, wrong time. He saw us, froze, eyes went wide, mouth open to yell. I put 2 rounds center mass before he could make a sound. He went down, kill number 2. She says it without emotion, just fact, just data. The way you'd report weather, conditions, or ammunition counts. We moved through this companionway in tactical column, clearing side compartments as we advanced. Standard room clearing procedures. Slice the pie. Check corners. Confirm empty or neutralize threats. No room left uncleared. No space left unchecked. Compartment 3 had 2 hostiles. Both armed, both asleep in bunks. A K-47's leaning against the bulkhead within arm's reach. Reese pauses. This part is harder. Killing someone in their sleep. We couldn't leave them. Couldn't restrain them without compromising our movement. Couldn't risk them waking and raising an alarm while we were deeper in the vessel. The math was simple. I eliminated both. Suppressed headshots at close range while they slept. They never woke up. Never knew what happened. Kills 3 and 4. Garrett's hands are shaking. He's gripping his desk so hard his knuckles have gone white. This isn't what he expected. This isn't the story he thought he'd hear. Reese keeps talking, relentless now, the story demanding to be told. We reached the first interior stairwell at 0320 hours, 4 minutes after boarding. The vessel had 4 decks. We'd entered on the main deck. Target was the command center on deck 2. Intelligence indicated 20 to 30 personnel in the command center. The rest of the crew distributed throughout the vessel. Engineers, communications specialists, security personnel. Our priority was the command center. Neutralize leadership and communications first. Everything else was secondary. But we couldn't bypass the other decks. Couldn't leave hostiles behind us who might cut off our exfiltration route or raise an alarm before we completed the objective. She describes the next section with clinical precision. The detachment of a surgeon describing a complicated procedure. We split into 3 elements. 4 operators each plus me as a floating asset. I moved with whichever element hit the heaviest resistance, reinforced where needed, breached where required. Element 1 cleared Deck 1. Element 2 took Deck 3. Element 3 with Reaper 1 pushed toward the command center on Deck 2. I went with Element 3. We had the primary objective. We encountered heavy resistance on the forward stairwell. 6 hostiles, all armed with automatic weapons. They'd heard something. Movement, muffled sounds. Were responding to investigate. Oya Reese's voice doesn't change. Doesn't rise. Stays calm and steady, even describing violence. Engagement lasted 12 seconds. Confined space. Narrow stairwell. No room for maneuver. No cover. Pure violence of action. Speed and aggression overwhelming superior numbers. I was point position, first through the fatal funnel, first to make contact. Took 3 hostiles in the initial burst. Center mass shots, HK 416 on semi-automatic. Controlled pairs, double tap each target. They went down before they could return effective fire, before they could raise their weapons. Reaper 1 and Reaper 3 took the remaining 3 hostiles. Total time from first contact to last hostile down 12 seconds. Kills 5, 6, and 7 for me. We kept moving. No pause, no celebration, just movement toward the objective. Admiral Kane is watching her with something that looks like pride, or maybe sorrow, maybe both. The look of someone who understands, who's been there, who knows the Kanda. Reese continues relentlessly, the story pouring out now like blood from a wound. Deck 2 corridor was longer, more compartments, more places for hostiles to hide or stage ambushes, more opportunities for things to go wrong. We moved methodically, no rushing. Rushed entries get people killed. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Every door checked, every corner cleared, professional, precise. Encountered another 6 hostiles in crew quarters. They'd grabbed weapons when they heard us coming, put up resistance, fought back, made it a real engagement. Firefight lasted maybe 20 seconds. Suppressed weapons only. Subsonic ammunition. Sounds like loud coughs instead of gunshots. Still loud in a steel corridor, but not loud enough to alert the entire vessel. Not loud enough to compromise the mission. I took 4 of the 6. Reaper 1 took 2. Standard room clearing. Entry, assess, engage, extract. Kills 8 through 11. She's counting them out loud now. Keeping score because Garrett demanded it. Because he wanted a body count. Now he's getting one. Every kill, every life taken, every decision made in fractions of seconds. We reached the entrance to the command center at 0335 hours, 25 minutes after initial boarding, right on schedule, moving fast but controlled. Standard commercial vessel door, heavy steel, dogged shut from inside, mechanical lock, no windows. No way to see what was on the other side. No way to know what we were walking into. Reese stops walking, stands in the center of the room. The officer's completely silent, hanging on every word. This is where it gets complicated. For the first time, her voice carries real emotion. Weight. The kind that comes from decisions that can't be undone. From choices that haunt you forever. Reaper 1 wanted to breach immediately. Shape charge on the door. Flashbangs through the opening. Dynamic entry. Fast and violent. Overwhelming force. But I heard something. Through the door. Voices. Speaking English. American accents. The room tenses. Everyone leaning forward. Not the command center. Wrong location. We were 1 compartment forward of the target. Intelligence had missed this. I told Reaper 1 to hold, made him pause, made him listen. He heard it too, English, American accents. Someone saying, please. We don't know anything, please. Garrett leans forward. Hostages. Reese nods. Hostages. She takes a breath. This is the part of the story that changed everything. The part that made this mission more than just another black operation. We breached the compartment. Controlled entry, non-explosive. I picked the lock instead of blowing the door. Took 90 seconds. Long minutes when we were exposed. When anyone could walk around the corner and see us. Inside, we found 5 American sailors. The words hit like a physical blow, like a hammer to the chest. 3 men, 2 women, all enlisted, all wearing U.S. Navy utility uniforms. All restrained with zip cuffs. All beaten. Bruises, split lips, black eyes. All terrified, eyes wide, shaking, probably thinking we were there to kill them. They'd been captured 2 weeks earlier during a failed reconnaissance operation. Small craft interdiction that went wrong. Their boat was seized, crew taken prisoner, held as leverage, as insurance. Intelligence never told us they were on that vessel. Either didn't know or didn't think it mattered, didn't think they were worth mentioning in the mission brief. Reese's jaw tightens, anger bleeding through the professional detachment. It mattered. Reaper 1 immediately called for mission abort. Standard protocol. Hostages change everything. Can't complete the objective and extract 5 civilians simultaneously. Can't risk their lives. Can't guarantee their safety. He keyed his radio, started to transmit abort code to the submarine. I stopped him. Garrett's eyes widen. You countermanded your team leader. Reese meets his gaze, unwavering, unashamed. I made a tactical assessment, sir. Those sailors had been prisoners for 2 weeks. If we aborted the mission, they'd be executed the moment the enemy realized we'd been aboard, dead within minutes of our extraction. If we extracted them, first loaded them in the Zodiac and sent them back to the submarine, the alarm would sound. The command center would go to alert status. Mission would fail. 4,000 sailors die when the attack succeeds 48 hours later. Only option was to secure the hostages in place, complete the primary objective, then extract everyone during exfiltration, save 5 and save 4,000. Reaper 1 didn't like it, didn't like the risk, didn't like leaving them, but he recognized the logic, the math. We couldn't save 5 and doom 4,000. She pauses, lets him understand the weight of that decision. So I took responsibility. I told him, if this goes wrong, it's on me. My call, my career, my court-martial if we fail. Your record stays clean. He looked at me for maybe 5 seconds, evaluating, deciding if he could trust me, trust my judgment. Then he nodded. We moved the hostages to a secure compartment, interior space, no windows, no vents large enough for a person. Left 1 operator with them as security. Reaper 4 told them stay quiet, stay hidden. We'll come back for you. I promise we'll come back. Then we moved on the command center. Reese's voice hardens to steel. Cold, unforgiving. The command center was the next compartment aft. Heavy door, electronic lock, armed guards outside, 3 of them, all carrying automatic weapons, all wearing body armor. I took point position. Reaper 1 and Reaper 3 flanked. Standard 3-man entry team. We hit them fast, suppressed fire, close range, simultaneous engagement. They never had time to raise an alarm, never had time to key their radios, never had time to do anything except die. Kills 12, 13, and 14. Then we breached the command center. She stops, looks around the room, making sure everyone understands what's coming next, making sure they're ready. This is where the count gets high. Her voice drops, quiet, almost a whisper, but somehow louder than any shout. The command center was a converted cargo hold, maybe 40 feet by 30 feet, banks of electronics along the walls, computer stations, radio equipment, satellite uplinks, navigation systems, everything needed to coordinate a multi-platform attack against carrier groups. And 35 personnel, all armed, all trained, all dedicated to their mission, all willing to die to sink American ships. Admiral Kane speaks for the first time in 20 minutes, his voice rough, gravelly. How did you breach? Reese looks at him. Shaped charge on the door, 4-second fuse, flashbangs through the opening before the smoke cleared. Then we went in while they were still blind and deaf and disoriented. I was first through, breacher's privilege. First through the fatal funnel, first into the kill zone. She closes her eyes, remembering, seeing it all again. The interior was chaos. Smoke from the breaching charge, strobe effect from the flashbangs, personnel stumbling around blind, reaching for weapons they couldn't see, trying to orient in space they couldn't navigate, ears ringing, eyes watering, completely disoriented. I moved through them like water, fluid, constant, inevitable. 35 targets, 12 operators including me. We had to neutralize every single one before they could return organized fire or trigger alarms that would alert the rest of the vessel. Engagement time 4 minutes and 18 seconds. I personally eliminated 28 of the 35. Her voice is flat now, dead, like she's reading from a casualty report. Like these are just numbers, just statistics. They kept coming, kept fighting. Some charged with knives when their weapons jammed or ran dry. Some tried to surrender, but our ROE was clear. No witnesses, no prisoners, no exceptions. I put them down, all of them. Center mass shots until they stopped moving. Headshots when body armor stopped the initial rounds. Methodical, efficient, or professional. like clearing targets on a range except the targets shot back. Kills 15 through 42. Garrett's face is gone gray, ash pale. He looks like he might be sick. Looks like he's realizing what he's done, what he's forced her to relive. Reese opens her eyes, continues without mercy. By 0350 hours, the command center was secure. All hostile personnel neutralized. All threats eliminated. Electronics intact because we needed them operational. Reaper 2 was our technical specialist, communications expert. He accessed the command network, pulled the data, downloaded everything, attack schedules, target coordinates, communications protocols, the entire operation plan. Attack was scheduled for 0600 hours, 2 days from when we launched. We had time. We'd stopped it. 4,000 lives saved. We downloaded everything to encrypted drives, every communication, every file, every scrap of intelligence that could help us understand the network, map the organization, prevent future attacks. Then we placed demolition charges, thermite grenades on the electronics, C4 plastic explosive on structural supports, set for remote detonation after we were clear. Leave nothing intact, leave no evidence. Her voice speeds up again, the operation accelerating toward completion, toward extraction, toward survival. We returned to the hostage compartment, all 5 sailors still secure, frightened but alive. Reaper 4 had kept them safe. Moved them to the exfiltration point, main deck port side, where we'd originally boarded, where the Zodiac was waiting. That's when the alarm finally sounded. The room tenses, officers sitting forward, absorbed in the story. Someone found the bodies, found the guards outside the command center, raised the alarm at 0405 hours, 35 minutes after we'd neutralized the command center. 35 minutes too late. The rest of the crew mobilized, maybe 30 personnel, all armed, all converging on our position, all fighting for a mission that had already failed. Reese's voice is cold now, mechanical, reciting facts like a computer. We couldn't extract with hostiles closing, couldn't reach the Zodiac with armed personnel between us and the boat, couldn't call for emergency exfiltration because radio silence was still in effect. Any transmission could be intercepted. Had to fight our way out. Running gunfight through the companionways, back the way we'd come. Except now they knew we were there, knew we'd hit the command center, knew their mission had failed, knew they were probably going to die. They fought like it. Encountered the first group at the interior stairwell, 8 hostiles, heavily armed, using crew quarters as cover, firing from concealment, making us come to them. I breached their position with fragmentation grenades, cooked them off, 2-second fuse, let them bounce into the compartment, then followed through with rifle fire while they were still stunned. Kills 43 through 48. She's not even pausing between numbers now, just reciting them like coordinates, like map references. Second group hit us in the main corridor, 10 hostiles. Crossfire from both ends of the passage, textbook ambush, professional setup. We were pinned, hostages behind us, enemy ahead and behind, no cover, no way forward without taking casualties. I volunteered to break the ambush, solo assault on the forward position, drew their fire while Reaper 1 took the rear group with the rest of the team. Killed 6 before they repositioned, Reaper 1 took 4. Kills 49 through 54 for me. Made it to the main deck at 0415 hours, 45 minutes after initial boarding. Longer than planned, but still within acceptable parameters. But we weren't clear yet. Reese's breathing is faster now, reliving the adrenaline, the chaos, the desperate push to extraction, the knowledge that survival wasn't guaranteed. Final group of hostiles was waiting on deck, 16 personnel. They'd cut off access to the Zodiac, formed a defensive line, ready to die stopping us. We had 2 options, fight through or find another way off. Swimming wasn't an option with hostages. Waiting wasn't an option with the alarm raised. I chose fight through. Placed the hostages in hard cover behind deck equipment, told them stay down, don't move, don't look, and they listened. Then we assaulted the final position. Her voice drops to almost a whisper now, but somehow carries more weight than shouting ever could. Kill box engagement, overlapping fields of fire. No cover for the enemy. We hit them from 3 angles simultaneously. 12 operators against 16 hostiles with nowhere to hide. It was a slaughter. 16 hostiles down in less than 30 seconds. I took 14 of them. Just pulled the trigger until they stopped moving, until the threat was eliminated, until we could extract. Kills 55 through 68. The room is absolutely silent. Even the sound of breathing seems too loud, too intrusive in this moment. Reese's hands are shaking slightly, the first real sign of emotion breaking through the professional detachment, the first crack in the armor. We reached the Zodiac, loaded the hostages, started engines, got everyone aboard and pushed off. Detonated the charges remotely when we were 400 yards clear. The command center went up in thermite fire. White hot. Hot enough to melt steel. Hot enough to destroy every piece of electronics, every scrap of intelligence, every bit of evidence. The vessel started listing immediately, taking on water from structural damage. The explosives had compromised hull integrity. We were 800 yards away when it capsized, rolled over and sank in less than 3 minutes, taking the rest of the crew with it. No survivors except us. She stops, takes a breath, the first real pause in the narrative. Mission time from boarding to exfiltration, 1 hour and 47 minutes. But the actual engagement window was 72 minutes. That's what made it into the official classification. 72 minutes to save 4,000 lives. Garrett finally speaks, his voice hoarse, broken. You said 73 kills. You've only accounted for 68. Reese nods slowly, the movement heavy, weighted with something beyond physical exhaustion. The final 5 were different, and in that moment, everyone in the room knows. There's more to this story, something worse than everything she's already described. Something that's been haunting her for 18 months. Admiral Kane closes his eyes. He knows what's coming. He's read the classified after-action report. The parts that were too sensitive even for the sanitized version. Reese's voice drops to barely above a whisper, but in the silent room, every word carries. There was one more compartment we found, before the command center. I didn't mention it before because... She trails off, searching for words, searching for a way to explain something that defies explanation. Because it's the part that keeps me awake at night. There was one more compartment we found, before the command center. I didn't mention it before because it's the part I can't forget, the part that won't let me go. Reese's voice is different now, quieter, more fragile. The professional detachment cracking like ice under pressure, like a dam beginning to fail. The officers in the room lean forward, even Garrett, especially Garrett. Everyone sensing that this is the heart of the story, the wound that won't heal. She takes a breath, steadies herself, continues. During our advance to the command center, we encountered a sealed compartment, Deck 2 forward section. The door was different from the others, reinforced steel with an electronic lock and biometric scanner. Military-grade security. The kind of security you don't put on crew quarters. The kind that says something important is inside. Reese's hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. Reaper 1 wanted to bypass it. Stay focused on the primary objective. Time was critical. Every second we spent was another second for them to discover us. But I couldn't let it go. That level of security meant something was inside. Could have been weapons. Additional communications equipment, a secondary command post. Intelligence we needed. I breached the lock. Took 90 seconds to bypass the biometrics. Electronic lockpick. Standard equipment for special operations. But 90 seconds felt like 90 hours when we were exposed. Her jaw tightens, muscles flexing. Inside we found 5 people, civilian clothes, business casual, no visible weapons, hands raised, and all shouting that they were contractors, that they'd been forced to help, that they weren't military, that we couldn't shoot them. The room is absolutely silent. Everyone knows what's coming. The leader was a woman, maybe 40 years old, professional appearance, American accent, Midwest, could have been from Ohio or Indiana. She kept saying she had children, kept begging, said their names, Emma and Sophia, 8 and 11 years old, kept showing me a photo from her wallet, 2 little girls smiling at a birthday party. Reese's voice drops to barely above a whisper. Each word costs her something. Reaper 1 scanned their identification badges. All of them had official-looking credentials on lanyards around their necks, the kind that look legitimate until you actually verify them. He ran the names through our tactical computer. The one with satellite uplink to naval intelligence databases. She pauses, the weight of what comes next pressing down like physical force. All 5 came back flagged. Red markers, highest priority. Former United States intelligence personnel. NSA, CIA, Naval Intelligence, all disappeared within the last 5 years. All presumed defected to hostile foreign powers. The woman's name was Jennifer Hastings, former NSA cryptologist, specialized in satellite communications and signal intercept. Disappeared in 2019 during a conference in Singapore. Her family held a memorial service. The intelligence community thought she'd been kidnapped, killed, lost. Reese's voice hardens, anger cutting through the grief. She wasn't. She defected. Sold American signals intelligence to the highest bidder. Compromised operations that got people killed. Gave them access to our communications, our movements, our vulnerabilities. And they put her on that vessel to help coordinate attacks against our carrier groups, to help kill 4,000 American sailors, to start a war. A colonel in the second row sets down his pen, stares at Reese, understanding dawning. The other four had similar stories, all former intelligence officers, all with access to classified information, all willing to use that information to kill Americans, to betray everything they'd sworn to protect. Reese looks directly at Garrett, forces him to see her, to understand. Our rules of engagement were explicit. No witnesses who could identify us, no prisoners who could compromise the operation, no exceptions for any reason. These five had seen our faces, heard our voices, knew we were American operators. If we let them live, if we took them prisoner, the entire operation was compromised. The mission failed, the consequences unthinkable. Her hands are shaking now, trembling like leaves in wind. Jennifer Hastings kept talking, kept begging, said she had two daughters, Emma and Sophia, 8 and 11. Said she'd made a mistake, a terrible mistake. Said she'd testify against everyone if we just let her live. Said she'd give us everything. Names, operations, everything. I thought about my own daughter. Madison was 14 then, same age as Hastings' oldest. I thought about what it would mean if I died on some classified operation, and Madison never knew why, never knew where, just gone one day, disappeared. Then I thought about the 4,000 sailors on those carrier groups. Some of them had daughters too, sons, wives, husbands, parents waiting at home, people who loved them, people who needed them to come home. And Jennifer Hastings was helping coordinate an attack that would kill them all. Her voice is steel now, cold and hard and unforgiving. I confirmed their identification, ran the names twice to be sure, checked the photos against their faces. Confirmed they were defectors, confirmed they posed an operational security risk, confirmed what had to be done. Then I executed all five. Close range, 2 rounds each, center mass, professional, efficient, no hesitation. The words land like hammer blows, like physical violence against the silence. Jennifer Hastings was last. She looked at me, right in the eyes, said please one more time, said her daughter's names, Emma and Sophia, asked me to tell them she loved them. I pulled the trigger anyway. Kills 69 through 73. Complete silence. The kind that follows detonations. The kind that follows catastrophe. The kind where the world holds its breath. Reese's composure finally cracks. Just slightly. Just enough to show she's human. Just enough to show this has cost her everything. I did what the mission required. What the rules demanded. What 4,000 American lives depended on. I made the call that saved the carriers. That prevented the war. That brought 5 hostages home. She takes a shuddering breath, fighting for control. But necessary doesn't mean easy, doesn't mean clean, doesn't mean I sleep through the night, doesn't mean I don't see her face every time I close my eyes. See those 2 little girls who lost their mother, who don't know what she did, who just know she's gone. Admiral Kane's face is grave, lined with understanding. He's known this part of the story, but hearing Reese say it aloud carries different weight. Hearing the pain in her voice, seeing the kindness, Reese straightens, regains control through sheer force of will. The professional mask sliding back into place even though everyone can see the cracks. After exfiltration, after we delivered the hostages and intelligence to the submarine, we were debriefed separately. Each operator isolated in different compartments, interrogated by intelligence officers, threatened with court-martial for disclosure, told that this mission never happened, that we were never there, that those people never died. Service records were sanitized, deployments redacted, mission reports destroyed, citations reclassified under false operations. Awards given for things we never did to hide the things we actually did. Her voice strengthens, anger bleeding through now. I was awarded the Navy Cross for classified actions in support of maritime operations. The citation was 3 sentences long, all classified and all meaningless to anyone who reads it, all hiding the truth of what really happened. I've spent 18 months unable to explain gaps in my service record, unable to defend myself against accusations, unable to tell anyone why I wake up at 3 in the morning seeing Jennifer Hastings' face, why I can't look at my daughter without thinking about Emma and Sophia, why every decision I make is weighed against 73 lives. She looks around the room, meeting each officer's eyes, forcing them to see her, to understand. So there it is, General Garrett. 73 confirmed kills, all necessary, all justified by the mission parameters, all weighing on me every single day for the last year and a half. She looks at him directly, unflinching. Is that the answer you wanted? Sir Garrett stands slowly, his hands trembling, his face pale. He looks like he's aged a decade in the last 2 hours, like something inside him has broken and can't be repaired. He walks down from his bench, each step careful, uncertain, like he's forgotten how to move, crosses to where Reese stands. The room holds its breath, waiting. He stops 3 feet from her, comes to attention, then does something no one expects. He salutes. The gesture is slow, deliberate, profound, the highest respect that one warrior can show another. Captain Sullivan. I was wrong. Reese returns the salute, her eyes wet but her bearing perfect, her hands steady despite everything. Garrett lowers his hand, his voice rough, broken. I lost an entire company during Desert Storm. January 1991. Bad intelligence. Faulty coordinates. We walked into an ambush and I watched 140 Marines die in 20 minutes. Young men. Boys, really. 18, 19, 20 years old. Cut down before they'd even lived. His voice breaks, cracks completely. I've spent 30 years suspicious of anyone with gaps in their record. Anyone who couldn't explain where they'd been or what they'd done. I thought it meant they were hiding failures, hiding incompetence, hiding behind classification to cover up mistakes. He looks at Reese with something like shame, something like regret. You weren't hiding failures. You were protecting the nation's most critical secrets, carrying a burden that most people couldn't imagine, living with decisions that would break most people. And I accused you of being all mystique and no substance, of coasting, of not belonging in the Corps. He addresses the room now, voice stronger, more certain. All charges against Captain Sullivan are dismissed immediately, effective immediately. I'll file formal apology with the Commandant. And I'll personally recommend her for assignment to Strategic Command, where her expertise and experience can be properly utilized. The other officers stand, one by one, slowly at first, then all at once. A gesture of respect that transcends protocol, that goes beyond regulation, the kind of respect that's earned in blood and sacrifice and impossible decisions. Admiral Kane approaches, places a hand on Reese's shoulder, the touch gentle, paternal. Captain Sullivan. You're reassigned to my command, Pentagon Strategic Operations Center, effective immediately. Report Monday morning. Yes, sir. She turns toward the door, her legs unsteady after carrying this weight for so long, after finally setting it down, after 18 months of silence broken in a single afternoon. As she reaches the exit, it opens. A young Marine stands in the hallway, Corporal Blake Whitmore. 23 years old, reconnaissance specialty, fresh from training, eager, idealistic. Everything she used to be. He snaps to attention when he sees her. Ma'am? Reese stops, looks at him, young, eager. The same look she probably had 2 decades ago before she learned what service really costs. Corporal, Whitmore hesitates, then speaks quickly, like he's afraid he'll lose his courage. Ma'am, I want to learn from you. Everyone says you're the best there is, the best force recon operator in the Corps. I want to be like you. For the first time in what feels like forever, Reese smiles. Small, but genuine. Sad, but real. What's your specialty? Corporal reconnaissance, ma'am. Force recon school next month. I want to be the best. Then we should talk about what they won't teach you there. Whitmore's face lights up. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I won't let you down. Report to my office at the Pentagon Monday. 0800 hours. Don't be late. I won't, ma'am. I promise. Reese walks past him. Out of the building. Out into the Virginia sunlight. The air is humid but feels lighter than it has in 18 months. The weight's still there but somehow bearable now, shared instead of carried alone. She pulls out her phone, texts Madison, heading home early. Want to grab dinner? Your choice. The response comes back instantly. Yes, Thai food. Love you, Mom. Reese smiles again, real this time. For the first time since that night in August 2023, the weight feels like something she can live with. She drives home through Virginia Beach traffic, windows down, radio off, Just the sound of wind and other cars and normal life continuing around her. People going home from work, kids playing in yards, dogs barking. Normal, safe, far removed from classified operations and impossible decisions. Madison is waiting on the front porch when she pulls up. 17 now, getting ready for college applications. Growing up too fast. She runs down the steps and hugs her mother tight. Long day. Yeah, long day. You okay, Mom? Reese holds her daughter, breathes in the smell of her shampoo, feels the weight of her, the realness of her, the reminder of why any of it matters. Yeah, sweetheart, I am. They go to dinner, Thai food, Madison's favorite place. They talk about normal things, school, college choices, Madison's boyfriend, Derek. Whether the Nationals have any chance this season, normal conversation, normal life. After dinner, they drive home. Madison puts on music, sings along, off-key but enthusiastic. Reese listens and smiles and feels something close to peace. That night, after Madison goes to bed, Reese sits in the living room, opens her laptop, checks email out of habit. One message from Admiral Kane, subject Monday. She opens it. Captain Sullivan, your office will be ready Monday, 3rd floor West Wing. We have work to do. The world hasn't gotten any safer. We need people like you, people who understand the cost, people who make the hard calls. Welcome to Strategic Command. Kane. She closes the laptop, looks at the framed photo on the mantel. James in his marine dress blues. Young, smiling. Gone 18 years, but still present in every decision she makes. She thinks about Jennifer Hastings, about Emma and Sophia, about the 72 others, about the weight that will never fully lift, but has become manageable, bearable, shared. She thinks about Corporal Whitmore, about teaching the next generation, about passing on hard-earned wisdom, about making sure they're better prepared than she was. She thinks about 4,000 sailors who lived because she pulled the trigger 73 times, who went home into their families, who never knew how close they came to dying. The arithmetic of sacrifice will never feel balanced, will never be clean, will never stop haunting her at 3 in the morning when she wakes up seeing faces. But she's not alone anymore, and she's moving forward. And that has to be enough. She closes her eyes, takes a breath, lets it out slowly. When she opens them, Madison is standing in the doorway in her pajamas. Mom, you okay? Reese smiles, really smiles. Yeah, sweetheart, I am. Madison sits beside her on the couch, leans against her shoulder the way she did when she was little. They sit in comfortable silence. Mother and daughter, warrior and legacy, past and future. Outside, the Virginia evening settles into darkness. Inside, Reese Sullivan sits with her daughter and feels something she hasn't felt in a very long time. Peace. Not complete, not perfect, but real. And for tonight, that's more than enough. If you've served or know someone who carries these burdens, honor them in the comments below. Share their stories. Remember their sacrifices. Because the warriors who protect us are often the ones we never see. The ones who carry weights we can't imagine. The ones who make decisions we'll never have to make. And if you believe that duty and honor still matter, that silent professionals deserve recognition, that the warriors who protect us from threats we'll never know existed deserve our respect, then subscribe. Because these stories need to be told. Not for glory, not for fame, not for recognition. But so the next generation understands the true cost of service. Understands what it means to stand between the darkness and the light. Understands that freedom isn't free and safety isn't guaranteed. And sometimes the only thing standing between civilization and chaos is one person making an impossible choice. These are the stories that matter. The ones that show us what we're capable of, what we're willing to sacrifice, what we're willing to become to protect the people we love. Captain Reese Sullivan is one of thousands. Silent professionals who serve in the shadows, who carry burdens we can't see, who make choices we'll never know about, who protect us from threats we'll never understand. They deserve our respect, our gratitude, our recognition. They deserve to be remembered, not as numbers, not as statistics, not as classified files locked in secure facilities, but as people, as warriors, as guardians who stood watch so we could sleep safely. Remember them, honor them, and make sure the next generation knows what real service looks like, because that's how we honor the 73 Freedom, by teaching others how to save the 4,000 without requiring the same sacrifice, by finding better ways, smarter ways, ways that don't cost quite so much. That's the legacy. That's the hope. That's what makes it worth carrying the weight.